Understand Todd Blanche. What happened to the Todd Blanche who was a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York? What happened to the prosecutor people had respect for? What happened to the prosecutor who once respected the rule of law? What happened to the prosecutor who said that there wouldn't be a whiff of political partisanship and then prosecutes the president's enemies over seashells cases, over making a video stating the plain law and Constitution? What happened to the Todd Blanche of the Southern District of New York that could convert him into you, someone willing to say the president has both the right and the duty to prosecute his political enemies? I cannot imagine the Todd Blanche of the old days would have ever done that. What happened to you, Todd Blanche? I'll tell you this. I think Robert Caro had it right when he said that power doesn't corrupt as much as it reveals. I suspect it has just revealed who you are. And who you are is someone willing to sacrifice everything you once believed in for that title, for that position of Attorney General. And it is a sad story that we have seen from Trump appointee after appointee after appointee. We have seen people compromise themselves little by little and then a lot by a lot until they're sitting before this committee and trying to justify the unjustifiable. Blanche, you represented the president in at least three criminal cases: the hush money payment case in New York, the January 6th case, and the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. You said when you appeared last before this committee you would consult with ethics lawyers about that apparent conflict of interest in handling any case involving the president, having been his personal counsel. Did you consult with Joseph Terrell, a senior ethics lawyer at the department?
I believe I met with Mr. Terrell, yes.
Did Mr. Terrell tell you that ethics laws and policies required that you not be involved in cases involving your prior representation of the president?
Yes.
So in those three matters, the hush money payment case, January 6th case, Mar-a-Lago case, you were to recuse yourself?
I'm recused, correct. Well, by the way, the cases are not ongoing, Senator, but to the extent there's any work around those cases, yes, I'm recused.
So you said to CPAC a couple months ago, the other things that are happening, there is not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with those prosecutions, meaning the prosecution of the president. So you're saying that it's not a conflict of interest for you to be involved in the firing of prosecutors who prosecuted your client, your former client? There's no conflict there? Is that
no, there is. I wasn't involved.
So
would be a
at CPAC, you're taking credit for the firing of these Department of Justice lawyers, but you're not willing to take responsibility before this committee. Is that the case?
No.
Okay.
I'm making, there's a statement I gave at CPAC.
You were bragging about this at CPAC, the firing of these prosecutors, the firing of the FBI agents, the getting rid of everyone who investigated your client. You were proud of that, speaking for the Department of Justice, but you don't think that's a conflict of interest. You moved to vacate, I don't think you're going to deny involvement in this, you moved to vacate the convictions of 12 Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, which erased their convictions, restored their gun rights. These people were convicted in the January 6th investigation, which also involved the president, who you represented. You were involved in dismissing those cases, were you not?
I'm the acting attorney general, so yes, my department moved to dismiss. I was not involved.
So you didn't recuse yourself from that matter. You were
no,
willing?
There's no reason to, from the Proud Boys matter?
Yes,
I mean,
it was.
Lawyer, you know the rules. There are rules that say when I have to be recused, and that's not one of them.
And there are rules, and when you're told to recuse yourself from investigations that you handle for the president, you're supposed to recuse yourself.
No, when I represented the president.
You have also said, you've also refused to release Volume 2 of the Special Counsel's report. That was an investigation into the Mar-a-Lago documents case. How is that not an abundant conflict of interest? Refusing to release to the public an investigative report of an investigation into your client.
I am not a judge. A federal judge.
No. The department's position under you, Mr. Blanche, was do not release the report.
So that position...
If you went into court asking them to release it, it would be released by now. So how is that not a patent conflict of interest?
What you're saying happens to not be true. I did not do that. What you're talking about happened before I became the Deputy Attorney General.
So you support the release of Volume 2?
No, I don't, but I'm recused and had nothing to do with that case. Like, you can't accuse me of violating my ethical rules and then lie about what I did.
So you had nothing to do with the decision to prohibit the release of the report? You had nothing to do with the department's position?
I wasn't in court.
No, I'm not asking whether you were in court. I'm asking you whether anyone sought your opinion or used your guidance in refusing to release Volume 2.
When
You're saying you had nothing to do with that decision?
Litigation was ongoing, I was a private citizen, still representing the President of the United States. It was before March. Since March, to the extent there's been anything in front of that judge,
Mr. Blanche,
I haven't been part of it.
I asked you in your last confirmation hearing whether you would release the report, and your answer was no. Your answer was not, I will recuse myself. Your answer was, no, I will not release the report. That was your testimony last before this committee. You subsequently were advised by ethics lawyers not to be involved in these matters, but it appears you were involved in these matters. Let me ask you about another matter.
I wasn't involved. You can't say it appears I was involved, but I said I wasn't.
Let me ask you about another one you have your name on.
The truth has to matter at some point.
Yeah, it does matter. We just don't hear much of it from you. But let me ask you about another matter you have your name on. I don't think you can deny responsibility here, and that is the IRS settlement agreement. So you put your name on this. That absolves the president of tax liabilities in the past. The president was convicted in the case you represented him in of falsifying business records in part for tax purposes. Does this settlement not absolve the president of any liability for tax crimes associated with what he's already been convicted of?
That's not what he was convicted of. It not having to do with
tax
purposes.
I'm happy to read the statement of facts. The participants took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of the payments made in furtherance of the scheme. So you know, Mr. Blanche.
The participant there was not the president. It was somebody else.
Well, if the president is conspiring with others to falsify business records to help them cheat on taxes, he is also exposed to liability. You know that as well as I do.
He can't be audited for that.
And of course he can be. Of course he can be. And he can be prosecuted for it. But the agreement you signed on behalf of your former client, on behalf of your current client, in a staggering example of self-dealing, prohibits that. Let me ask you this. Does this tax agreement, this addendum you signed, also hold him harmless from any audit or tax liability with respect to the billions in crypto money he made in his first year as president?
It's not forward-looking. So to the extent there are taxes filed by the president or his sons or the Trump organization after the date of that agreement, there's no protection.
Well, but before that agreement. So any taxes...
he hasn't filed taxes yet for money he made last year, right? So
yes.
No.
So if he
no protection.
If he filed tax returns this year for money he earned last year, that his sons earned, that his World Liberty Financial, all those people earned and defrauded taxpayers on it, he faces no liability under this agreement you signed.
There's no evidence taxpayers were defrauded, and he
is
not protected.
There's evidence in this agreement that you've absolved him of any liability over.
No, I just said he's not absolved. So the question
So this agreement doesn't apply to a tax return filed last year or filed this year?
To tax returns filed after the date of the agreement? No,
No, before the agreement. A tax return filed in this calendar year before this agreement.
Before the agreement, it applies, not after.
Okay, so for a tax return filed this year for last year, for the billions he made, there's no tax liability even if he cheats on his taxes or his kids do or his business do. He is absolved of that further potential liability.
No.
Well, it's in the plain language of your agreement. Did you write this language, by
You
the
have
way?
to use the facts, though,
Did you-
that he hasn't filed
did you-
taxes yet. So when he files taxes, there's no protection based upon this agreement.
Did you write this language?
Did I type it up myself?
Did you write this language?
No.
Well, you put your name to it.
I did.
So who wrote this?
I don't know the person that actually typed it. I don't know who it is.
Was it one of the president's lawyers, or was it someone from the Justice Department or IRS?
This document would have been
Yes.
somebody within the Department of Justice.
Well, you have no idea who that is.
I don't know the name of the person that typed it up.
And did you debate with them the statute of limitations, which clearly would preclude the president's claim, this $10 billion lawsuit?
We had extensive discussions internally about the underlying litigation.
And did you reject the statute of limitations defense?
I'm not a judge. I don't reject
But
things.
you signed an agreement for the U.S.
There was discussion around the litigation.
You signed an agreement for the U.S. basically indicating that the Justice Department's position that the statute of limitations applies doesn't matter.
I did. That's not what I said. I didn't say that anywhere.
Who rejected the 25 defenses the IRS had to this sham lawsuit? Who rejected them? Who said that these defenses we're not going to accept, we're just going to go with the president's agreement in the slush fund, this immunity?
There was a lot of discussion internally.
But you made the decision.
What's the decision? What do you mean?
You made the decision to not defend the IRS and the Justice Department. You made the decision instead to sign this slush fund agreement.
We made the decision to settle the case, correct.
Yeah. And in doing that, you basically decided that you were going to be the lawyer for the president and the lawyer for the IRS and the Justice Department. As the court found in this case, there was no adversarial relationship.
Yes,
the court found it was a sham. It was a collusive relationship. And what I don't understand, Todd Blanche, what happened to the Todd Blanche who was a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York? What happened to the prosecutor people had respect for? What happened to the prosecutor who once respected the rule of law? What happened to the prosecutor who said that there wouldn't be a whiff of political partisanship and then prosecutes the president's enemies over Seychelles cases, over making a video stating the plain law and Constitution? What happened to the Todd Blanche of the Southern District of New York that could convert him into you, someone willing to say the president has both the right and the duty to prosecute his political enemies? I cannot imagine the Todd Blanche of the old days would have ever done that. What happened to you, Todd Blanche? I'll tell you this. I think Robert Caro had it right when he said that power doesn't corrupt as much as it reveals. I suspect it has just revealed who you are. And who you are is someone willing to sacrifice everything you once believed in for that title, for that position of Attorney General. And it is a sad story that we have seen from Trump appointee after appointee after appointee. We have seen people compromise themselves little by little and then a lot by a lot until they're sitting before this committee and trying to justify the unjustifiable. I yield back.
May I just briefly respond, Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Very briefly. So you asked me what happened to Todd Blanche. I am still here. I am the same exact person I was when I was a federal prosecutor in the SDNY, which is do the right thing and do everything you can to keep communities safe. So when I was a line prosecutor, when I was a supervisor, when I was the head of a division, my motivation and my goal was the same thing with the people who worked with me and worked for me, which is do the right thing, enforce the laws, and put bad guys in jail. And so you spend time talking about, I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. A little courtesy would be appropriate. So when you ask me what has changed, okay, and you talk about a single document that I signed, okay, and somebody had to sign that document when the president sued, okay, so I tried to do the right thing. What I do every single day, and what the prosecutors in this country do every single day, and the nearly 100,000 indictments and informations that have been filed since January 20th, is exactly what everybody in this building should want the Department of Justice to do, which is to make our communities safer, enforce the laws, both civilly and criminally, and always do the right thing with integrity, which is exactly what I'm doing. So I am the same Todd Blanche I was when I was a federal prosecutor in the SDNY.
Let's be exact about what this hearing placed on the public record. Because what Senator Schiff assembled in this exchange was not a rhetorical flourish about institutional decline. It was a documented, sequential, evidence-based case, built from Blanche's own admissions, his own signatures, his own public statements, and the findings of a federal court, that the acting Attorney General of the United States has been functioning simultaneously as the personal lawyer of the president and as the chief law enforcement officer of the country that president governs. Start with the foundation. Todd Blanche represented Donald Trump in 3 criminal cases: the hush money payment case, the January 6th case, and the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Upon becoming acting Attorney General, he was advised by a senior ethics lawyer, Joseph Terrell, that ethics laws and policies required him not to be involved in matters connected to his prior representation of the president. He confirmed that advice under oath. He confirmed he is recused. Those are his words. They are in the congressional record. Then came CPAC. Standing before a political audience, Blanche said there was not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with the prosecutions of the president. He was taking credit, publicly, proudly on camera, for the purge of every prosecutor and every FBI agent who had worked on cases against his former client. That speech is also in the public record. And the gap between what he told the ethics lawyer and what he told CPAC is not a nuance. It is the entire case. Then came the Proud Boys. Blanche, acting as Attorney General, not recusing himself, moved to vacate the convictions of 12 Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, people convicted in the January 6th investigation. The same investigation that implicated the president he had represented as defense counsel. He said there was no rule requiring recusal from that matter. He said it to the committee with the same confidence he had said he was recused from presidential matters generally. The record now contains both statements. The committee can compare them. The public can compare them. Then came the IRS settlement. And this is where the documented self-dealing becomes impossible to explain away with procedural language. Blanche signed an agreement as acting Attorney General, representing the United States government, that absolved his former client, the President of the United States, of tax liability going back years. The agreement was produced by someone within the Justice Department whose name Blanche does not know. 25 defenses available to the IRS were rejected. Blanche does not know who rejected them or why. A federal court reviewed the settlement and found there was no adversarial relationship. The court called it a sham. The court called it collusive. Those are judicial findings. They are now in the record alongside Blanche's signature on the document those findings describe. And through all of it, the CAC speech, the Proud Boys vacator, the IRS settlement, the refusal to release the special counsel's report on a case in which he was defense counsel, Blanche's answer to every conflict of interest question was the same. I wasn't involved. I'm recused. That's not one of the rules. There was a lot of discussion internally. Schiff named what this pattern represents with precision. He cited Robert Carroll's observation that power doesn't corrupt as much as it reveals. And what this hearing revealed, document by document, admission by admission, is a man who crossed from one side of the adversarial system to the other without ever stopping to acknowledge that the crossing happened. A prosecutor who once put defendants in front of judges is now the chief law enforcement officer of the country, signing settlements that protect his former defendant from the institution he now leads, firing the prosecutors who built the cases he once defended against, and telling a political conference audience how proud he is of all of it. The record shows he said he was recused. The record also shows everything he did while claiming to be recused. Both things are in the same congressional file. Schiff asked the question that cut through every procedural deflection and every claim of recusal and every redirect to ongoing litigation. What happened to the Todd Blanche of the Southern District of New York? The prosecutor people had respect for. The prosecutor who said there would not be a whiff of political partisanship. The prosecutor whose motivation, by his own account under oath, was always the same. Do the right thing, enforce the laws, put bad guys in jail. That Todd Blanche signed documents he didn't write for clients he wasn't supposed to represent. That Todd Blanche rejected 25 defenses the IRS had available without knowing who made that decision. That Todd Blanche stood at CPAC and bragged about firing the prosecutors and agents who had done exactly what he once said prosecutors should do. Follow the facts and the law without political interference. Blanche's response to that question was telling in its own right. He said he is the same exact person he was when he was a federal prosecutor in the SDNY. That his motivation has never changed. That he is still doing the right thing with integrity every single day. He said it with conviction. He said it on the record. And the record, the same record that contains his CAC speech, his signature on the IRS settlement, his vacator of the Proud Boys convictions, and his refusal to release the special counsel's report on a case in which he was defense counsel, is still there. Both versions of Todd Blanche are now in the same congressional file. The committee can read them side by side. The American people can read them side by side. The question this hearing leaves behind, the one that no recusal claim, no CAC speech, no settlement agreement, and no declaration of unchanged integrity can close, is the one that Senator Schiff asked directly and that Blanche answered only by insisting he is the same person he has always been. When the acting Attorney General of the United States has represented the president in 3 criminal cases, signed a settlement absolving that president of tax liability, moved to vacate the convictions of his co-defendants, fired the prosecutors who built the cases against him, and taken public credit for all of it at a political conference. What exactly is the difference between the president's personal lawyer and the Attorney General of the United States? ***.